Email us or connect with us on social media.
Just can't smile without you.
This is Rogers TV, Grey County.
Hello and welcome to the special edition COVID-19 Rogers TV program, connecting you to the resources and information provided by our community. My name is Carol Merton, and before I welcome our guest today to the program, for those of you who watch the program regularly, you know I like to say a few words of thank you at the very, very beginning. So, I wish to extend a sincere and heartfelt thank you to our Medical Officer of Health, the Public Health Unit staff, our community service providers and support agencies, our first responders, hospitals, retirement homes and long-term care facilities, our essential frontline staff that include those in grocery stores, pharmacies, delivery truck drivers, gas station attendants, our farmers, and so many others, for their prompt action and ongoing efforts to keep our community safe. We are all together in this exceptional and ever-changing situation, and we are all neighbors doing our very best to care for and to support each other. Here at Rogers TV, we continue to provide you with current information from our community agencies and our elected officials regarding changes in the landscape of COVID-19. However, as you're probably already aware, that information changes very rapidly, and we encourage you to stay current with the situation by going to the Public Health Unit website at publichealthgraybruce.on.ca, listen to the radio, read your newspaper, and of course, tune into Rogers TV for updates. I want to welcome and thank David Adair, who is the General Manager for the Georgian Bay Symphony, for joining me today to talk about, of course, the Symphony, but some changes and exciting things that the Symphony has done to adapt to the COVID-19 world that we're in. David, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks very much for having me.
So I'm wondering first, if you could just explain about the Symphony, where you get the funding from, how many are involved in the Symphony, and what the Symphony did pre-COVID. If you wouldn't mind just sort of introducing the Symphony, and then we'll take it to COVID-19 days.
Sure. The Georgian Bay Symphony has been around since 1972. This is our 48th year. We're already starting to prepare for our 50th anniversary in 2 years. It's made up of community musicians from all over Grey Bruce, with a handful of professional musicians to offer guidance and help the other players. We typically do 5 concerts a year at Eastridge in the OSCVI auditorium there. And we're, of course, not able to do that anymore. The majority of our revenue come from ticket sales and donations, with a little bit of government funding.
So you would put on 5 performances per year, and people would come. And as you say, that doesn't happen anymore. So you obviously had to rethink and pivot how you produce the musical performances. So tell me a little bit about what you've done now.
So immediately after they closed the schools, we knew, of course, we weren't going to be able to have our concerts because we are actually in a school. And then things sort of evolved from there. But one of our board chairs, her daughter is attending at the University of Western Ontario. And she contacted her mother and said, there's a bunch of music students here who have been preparing recitals and their work for their sort of final exams, and those were all canceled. Would the symphony be interested in broadcast? We're doing something with those. So we actually did a series of Facebook Live events on our Facebook page, and then got the idea that we could do a Facebook Live concert, which we did about a month and a half ago. I have to say, all days now seem to run into each other.
Yes.
Never sure, is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? So we had 5 performers who performed one Saturday night back to back on Facebook Live, and that was very, we had a very good response to that. So we got thinking, we have 2 concerts left in our season. Could we do something? And a lot of the other orchestras and stuff in the world you've seen on Facebook and other places, these sort of little 2-3 minute vignettes of them playing a particular piece of music. And we thought, well, we could maybe do a virtual concert. So we did our first one last Saturday night, and it was hugely successful. We had to change the format, obviously, in the music, and our musicians, as I said, mostly community musicians, stepped up to the plate. They learned how to record music while listening to a recording of one of our principal players. It was a big learning curve for everyone, and we were able to put an hour-long concert together, and we've had over 2,000 views on YouTube of our concert. We had about 600 people tune in the night that it was aired at 7 o'clock. It sort of went, it wasn't live, but the broadcast began at 7 o'clock on the Saturday night. We had about 600 people, which is almost what we would get to a regular concert anyway. So we were very pleased, and we're preparing to do our final concert of the year on the, I want to say the 13th of June, whatever the Saturday is.
Yeah.
At 7 o'clock on YouTube as well.
I'm just trying to look it up. I'm getting older, so you're right, it's June 13th. Well done. So a couple of questions. So you're really doing a virtual performance?
Yes. Yeah.
So in a regular performance, the symphony would have had a chance to practice together.
Yes.
And they would have had, and they would have
rehearsals. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would have someone conducting. And so I think I need a little more explanation about how this actually works. How do they practice together? Because listening to each other is part of the music performance. And who conducts this?
So that's been one of the challenges. An orchestra is not made up of a bunch of solo performers.
Yeah.
It's made up of people playing together, listening. The violins are listening to the oboes. Everyone's working together to produce something. So we were still able to have our rehearsals through Zoom. Our conductor and some of our principal players got together on Zoom with people in their sections, and they practiced the pieces. But basically, at the end of the day, although there were practices, each individual musician was sent what is called a click track in the industry. An industry we were never been in because we've never been in the music recording industry, to listen to. So they would be playing on time, and then they recorded themselves playing while listening to the click track. And then we had a sound engineer and a video engineer put everything together.
Did you find that so the sound engineer, if there was any discrepancy with transmission, because sometimes even on Skype or Zoom, there's a little bit of a lag sometimes. So the sound engineer would neat that up. Is that how that worked?
Sort of, because each person was recording their video as opposed to doing it live. Yeah. As long as they followed the click track, they would be at the right time. Yeah. So what the sound engineer would have to do is go, okay, this is the third measure, sort of line all of the sound recordings up, that's where it starts, and then blend everything together. But I have to give a huge shout out to our musicians who have basically had to learn an entire new skill in order to make this happen. And I know it was hard, but a lot of them said it was hard, but we had fun. We had fun doing it. But it is much different than coming together with all of your friends and, practicing for a couple of hours in the auditorium and having the conductor there to say, no, I want that slower, or, speed that up. Those things were not there, which is one of the reasons we sort of changed the music. The pieces are shorter. They're very well known, and they're just, I want to say easier to play, but they're easier to play if you're apart, if that makes sense.
Yes. So they're adaptable when you have to use the technology to help put the music together. So when it's played, then the audience sees the people playing as well as hears the music.
Yes, absolutely.
And because I haven't seen it, is it a whole bunch of Zoom images of people playing together?
You have to watch it. It's available.
I will. Yeah.
The link is available on our Facebook page and our website, or you can just go to YouTube and search Georgian Bay Symphony, and it's right there. So we've had about 2,000 views so far. So what our video person did, we had several people actually go out and take pictures of local rivers and some of the fields, and so those were sort of the backdrop. And then if there were 4 people playing, there has the little boxes over top of the backdrop. For the piece that had the entire orchestra playing, they were kind of centered around the sides. Like the Brady Bunch. Maybe I'm giving my age there, but
I won't say a word about that. I remember them though.
Well, it was like, all kind of looking down and up at each other in the little things, or like Hollywood Squares. But I'm probably also dating myself with that.
Yeah. So the feedback that you've received from the first virtual conference, or symphony performance, I guess, really. It is a performance. It's just using different technology. From the musicians, they're adapting. What will change for the next one based on what you're hearing?
For the one in June, our video person sent out a few technical I don't quite know what the word, but technical hacks or something. A few people had themselves backlit, and you probably know in the video industry, you can't have a light behind you, or it kind of bleeds you out. So he just sent a message, said, when you're setting up to record, make sure you've got lots of light in front of you, which I actually don't think I'm actually doing today, but again, it's all new to everyone, and we're all on a fairly steep learning curve, and we wanted to keep it as fun for our musicians as possible. Making music shouldn't be a chore. It should be a joy. And as I said, most people thought it was challenging, but a lot of fun. And they're looking forward to our second one in June for sure.
Excellent, excellent. What do they say about the sound of the music? Does it sound differently? Because I know musicians are very particular about the acoustics.
I think it sounded as good as could be expected. If you've watched it, it's certainly the professionalism is on par with anything you would see from the TSO or any of the big orchestras. I mean, it's a very slick, professional production.
Do you think as you go forward that this will be something that the symphony might want to consider as an additional tool?
We're looking ahead into the fall, and of course, no one knows what things are going to look like. The Berlin Symphony, or the Berlin Philharmonic, had their first concert last Friday since COVID started, and it was in an empty theater, and they didn't have any woodwinds or brass instruments, anything that was all just strings, and it was broadcast live over their sort of closed circuit pay-per-view thing. We're not kind of set up for that, but maybe we will be by October. Well, we don't know whether people will be able to gather in such large crowds by October, or if every other seat will have to be, barricaded off. We are looking at options about, well, how do we do our October concert? Do we do it virtually? Do we do it live but without an audience? It looks like hockey and basketball and stuff are going to be, playing without anyone in the arenas. So we may end up having to do something like that. Our National Association are actually having 2 meetings, Orchestras Canada, over the next 2 weeks to talk about what are we all doing in the fall. And many of us don't know. What will it look like even to go to a movie, which would have pretty much the same impact as we do, large gatherings of people. So it's amazing what we've been able to do with the technology, and that we now know we can do it. I have to say, 8 weeks ago, I had never heard of Zoom, didn't know what Zoom was. I knew you could do a video conference. I mean, I knew that was a thing. That first Friday before March break, I heard about Zoom, and I've had 18 Zoom meetings since then. I think I had one on that Saturday, actually. So we've all been learning new things and new ways of delivering something. And again, if you've seen the video, like our video concert, the blending of images from around Gray and Bruce with our musicians and the music, it's almost like a new form of art. And we have several videographers are out now combing through Gray and Bruce, doing waterfall videos and stuff as sort of the backdrop for what we're doing. This is our area. We're here. We might as well use what we can.
And I think music and the creativeness of the videography together is amazing. Like you say, who would have thought that you would have done that? You mentioned earlier about the wind instruments, and we know that even for choral groups, there's grave concern about singing. So if you didn't have the wind instruments, how significant an impact would that be on your symphony?
Well, the wind and brass, that's what makes the symphony. All of these parts working together. We're kind of going to see what everyone else is doing. There has been some talk for some orchestras that they would pre-record the brass and the woodwinds, but there's so much happens in a live performance that pre-recording, then you have to follow the pace of the recording, as opposed to the conductor deciding, okay, we're going to speed this up, or I want to slow this down, or I want this part to be louder. You know, if you come to one of our live concerts, you can sometimes see Francois Coe, our maestro, sort of leaning forward to kind of tell the brass to just be, you know, quiet down a little bit. It's a, you can't do that with a pre-recording, but we'll adapt, and we'll see what, as I said, we'll see what everyone else is doing. Perhaps for the first concert, because there's lots of music out there that's just for strings. Maybe we do a string concert until things are, you know, have moved along. The latest that I have seen is that there really won't be choral music or anything like that until probably 2021. No church choirs, no local choral societies, all of that publicly anyway. I know a couple of the local sort of choral people around here have been doing Zoom practices and stuff. So there is some technology, but again, it's not the same. It's a bit different.
Yeah, yeah. For anyone who participates in a musical performance, having an audience in front of you makes all the difference. How do you think the musicians will adapt to this? Because there is that relationship between the performance, those who are performing, and what they are receiving back in that performance from the audience.
Absolutely. I mean, and that goes not just for orchestras, but theater groups. I've been watching some of the late show stand-up comedians like Colbert and stuff. And, you know, when they tell a joke, the audience laughs, but now they're sort of telling jokes and they don't know whether it's funny or not because there's nobody there. Our audience are certainly very appreciative of our musicians and usually give them a very rousing applause at the end of you know, each piece, and you know, we've had standing ovations, and so there isn't that live dynamic. So what we've done is during the concert, during the original broadcast, we had all kinds of people on YouTube commenting, "Oh, bravo, great performance," the clapping hands emoji, and had all kinds of emails about, "That was fantastic, I can't wait for the next one." We collected all of those and on Monday sent them out to the musicians and said, "This is what people think of the concert." It wasn't immediate, but it was feedback.
You almost need to have the audience do the applause and the standing ovation on Zoom so that you can link the two together.
Yes, yeah. That's one of the great things about, although we didn't do Facebook Live for this because it wasn't a live event, but the Facebook Lives we did, people can interact. They can put thumbs up or hearts. And as a musician, you can see that right away that someone is watching. That's the first thing. Because, oh, there's 400 people watching, and they can interact by which this was a little more static. People were reacting in real time, but the musicians had already done their work, you know, a week or two before, and were waiting for, you know, the feedback. Yeah. So we tried to get it to them as quickly as we could.
For sure. From a musician's point of view, when they saw it all put together, and I'm assuming they watched, that must have been a totally different experience for them.
Well, that's what several of them said. He said, you know, we've never actually seen a Georgian Bay Symphony concert because we're on the stage. So it is kind of surreal to sort of sit back and see it all put together. They said it was actually kind of nice to see what the finished product looked like. But I had mentioned to you before we went on, I did the little, you know, the MC introduction part of the video. I must have done 6 or 7 takes because you kind of fumble a word. You're like, oh no, I got to do that over again. Well, imagine musicians like, oh, I missed a note. I've got to go back and start start all over again, because you want to put your best, your best face forward. So I know many of them did 6 or 7 tries and said, well, I guess this is a really good one. I'll send that in. So it is a lot more work.
A lot more time intensive for sure.
And as again, I said, there's a learning curve as well, because you're now doing, this click track, and you're trying to listen and play and be recorded. And there's a lot of now technical aspects that you just played, and you reading the notes and playing is technical enough. Now you've added a camera and a microphone and, an earpiece and the whole bit.
So not only are they multitasking, but they definitely are multi-talenting as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me how the community can support you in this whole new adventure of virtual performances.
Well, they can certainly come and watch the concert, as the last concert we did is still up. The links are on our page, our website. And come grab your favorite beverage and sit down on Saturday, the 13th of June, and watch our next concert. Obviously, we're always open for donations. We're not doing ticket sales right now, because I think there are ways of doing that if you're hosting a concert online, but we're still on that curve of learning how all of this works. Yeah. And you can certainly go to our website, and people can make a donation through there.
Through the Georgian Bay Symphony website, then they can just donate online as well.
Yep.
Do you think that in the future you might do a mixed model of in-person and virtual, or perhaps it's too soon to really make that decision, but is there enough interest in continuing with this?
I don't know. I think we'll all come out of this doing things a little differently than we did before. We may, as I said, look at our October concert of being able to play in our venue without an audience and broadcast it live. There wouldn't be, if we did that, then maybe our next concert where we have an audience and we could still broadcast it. There are lots of people who can't, for a variety of reasons, can't come to our concerts, and we might still be able to let them see our concerts. I said the big, the Metropolitan Opera and that have been doing this for quite some time. When the Galaxy Cinema was open, you could go there and see a show from the Met, or even some of the big London theater productions you could see there. So the technology's there, and I guess we're going to be as adaptive as we can.
Yeah, it's sort of like pushing through the eye of a needle when necessity is making a lot of changes, for sure. I think it's absolutely remarkable that musicians can make this adjustment, because it is an amazing thing to be able to make it and in such a short time, because you didn't have a lot of lead-in time to make this change. I want to thank you very much for being on the program. Our time is up, and I wish you all the best. I am going to go and watch. I'm absolutely fascinated to see it. All the best to you and to the Georgian Bay Symphony, and to our viewing audience, thank you as well for joining us today. Stay tuned for more information about services and programs available to you and to your family. Stay safe.